I can't believe you, Zara. I slave away at work all day to come home to this slop? Ethan hurled his plate at the wall, shattering it. I flinched, my voice quivering. I'm sorry. I had a migraine today, and... Excuses. That's all I ever hear from you, Ethan sneered, his face contorted with rage. You're lucky I even married you, considering how plain and unremarkable you are. His words cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had long since healed. I met Ethan 3 years ago when I started working as a receptionist at his law firm. Despite my quiet nature and average looks, he pursued me relentlessly, showering me with compliments and grand romantic gestures. Swept up in the whirlwind of his charm, I fell head over heels. Our courtship was a fairy tale, but reality set in soon after we exchanged vows. Ethan convinced me to quit my job, insisting that he wanted me to focus on being the perfect housewife. I agreed, eager to please him and build our life together. But 3 months into our marriage, Ethan's true colors began to show. He nitpicked every aspect of my homemaking, from the way I folded his laundry to the seasoning in my cooking. Nothing I did was ever good enough. Honestly, Zara, sometimes I wonder why I bother coming home at all, Ethan sighed dramatically, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. You can't even handle the most basic tasks. I bit my lip, fighting back tears. I'm trying my best, Ethan. It's just been a difficult day and... Oh, spare me the pity party, he scoffed, rolling his eyes. You don't know what a difficult day is. You sit around this apartment all day, doing God knows what, while I'm out there busting my ass to provide for us. The irony of his statement wasn't lost on me. It was Ethan's idea for me to quit my job in the first place, yet he never missed an opportunity to throw my unemployment in my face. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my frayed nerves. I appreciate everything you do for us, Ethan. I'll try harder, I promise. You better, he warned, his tone icy. I didn't marry you for your scintillating conversation, Zara. The least you can do is keep the house in order and put a decent meal on the table. With that, he stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. I sank to the floor, hugging my knees to my chest as silent sobs racked my body. How had my life come to this? What happened to the charming, attentive man I fell in love with? As I sat there, surrounded by the shards of the shattered plate, I couldn't help but feel like they were a metaphor for my marriage. What once seemed so perfect and promising was now broken beyond repair, and I was left to pick up the pieces, alone and disillusioned. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan's verbal abuse only escalated. He seemed to take sadistic pleasure in tearing me down, finding fault in every aspect of my existence. Zara, have you gained weight? He asked one evening, eyeing me critically as I set the table for dinner. You're looking a bit softer these days. I glanced down at my body, suddenly self-conscious. I don't think so. I've been eating the same as always. Ethan smirked, a cruel glint in his eye. Well, maybe that's the problem. You're not exactly active, are you? Sitting around the house all day, it's no wonder you're turning into a blob. His words stung, but I tried to brush them off. I'll start going for walks in the evenings, I offered, hoping to appease him. Don't bother, he scoffed. It's not like it'll make much difference. You'll always be plain old Zara, no matter how much you try to improve yourself. I bit my tongue, fighting back the urge to defend myself. I knew from experience that arguing with Ethan only made things worse. As I served him his meal, he took one bite and grimaced. Christ, Zara, is this what you call dinner? It's like eating cardboard. I followed the recipe exactly, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I thought you liked chicken parmesan. I like it when it's cooked properly, he retorted, shoving the plate away. This is inedible. Honestly, I don't know why I keep you around. You're useless as a wife and homemaker. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give Ethan the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I'm sorry, I whispered, gathering up his plate. I'll make something else. Don't bother, he sneered, standing up from the table. I've lost my appetite. I'm going out. He grabbed his coat and keys, slamming the front door behind him. I knew he was likely heading to a bar or to meet up with one of his colleagues. It wasn't unusual for him to stay out late, leaving me alone with my thoughts and insecurities. As I cleaned up the kitchen, my mind wandered to happier times. I thought about my old job at the law firm, how fulfilling it had been to contribute and feel valued. I missed the camaraderie of my coworkers, the sense of purpose I felt every day. But Ethan had convinced me to give all that up. "I make more than enough money for both of us," he'd said. "I want you to focus on making our home a haven, a place where I can relax and unwind after a long day at work." At the time, it had sounded romantic, the idea of being a devoted housewife. But now I realized how much I had sacrificed for a man who didn't appreciate me, who seemed to delight in my misery. Late that night, as I lay in bed alone, I heard Ethan stumble in, reeking of alcohol and perfume. He collapsed onto the bed beside me, snoring loudly, not even bothering to undress. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, a hollow feeling in my chest. Was this what my life had become? A series of endless days, catering to a man who treated me like dirt with no escape in sight? I knew I should leave, that I deserved better than this. But a part of me still clung to the hope that Ethan would change, that he'd go back to being the charming, loving man I'd married. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come, and my illusions were about to be shattered in the most devastating way possible. It was a typical Sunday afternoon, and I was doing laundry, trying to keep myself busy and distracted from the constant tension that hung over our household. As I emptied Ethan's pockets before tossing his pants into the washing machine, his phone tumbled out, landing on the floor with a clatter. I picked it up, intending to place it on the counter, when a message flashed across the screen. It was from Valerie, Ethan's secretary at the law firm. I hesitated for a moment, knowing I shouldn't pry, but something compelled me to open the message. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a photo of Valerie, scantily clad and posed provocatively, accompanied by a text that left little to the imagination. "Can't wait for round 2, baby. Last night was incredible." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My hands shook as I scrolled through the message history, each exchange more explicit than the last. It was clear that Ethan and Valerie were having an affair, and from the looks of it, it had been going on for months. Rage and betrayal coursed through my veins. How could he do this to me? After everything I'd sacrificed for him, all the abuse I'd endured, he had the audacity to cheat on me with his secretary? I heard the front door open and Ethan's footsteps in the hallway. I stormed out of the laundry room, his phone clutched in my hand, ready to confront him. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, thrusting the phone in his face. Ethan's eyes widened for a moment, but he quickly composed himself. "What are you doing snooping through my phone, Zara? That's private." "Private?" I laughed bitterly. "You're screwing your secretary, and you have the nerve to talk about privacy." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what it looks like. It's just harmless flirting, nothing more." "Don't lie to me," I screamed, hot tears streaming down my face. "I saw the messages, the photos. How long has this been going on?" Ethan's face hardened, his eyes turning cold. "Fine, you want the truth? Yes, I've been sleeping with Valerie, but can you blame me? Look at you, Zara. You're a pathetic excuse for a wife. I only married you because I thought you'd be easy to control, but even that's proving to be more trouble than it's worth." His words hit me like a slap in the face. I stumbled back, my mind reeling. "You never loved me," I whispered, the realization dawning on me. This whole marriage was a sham. Ethan smirked, a cruel twist of his lips. "Oh, don't act so surprised. Did you really think someone like me would genuinely fall for someone like you? You were a means to an end, Zara, a convenient little wife to keep the house clean and warm my bed at night, but even you couldn't get that right." I felt like I was going to be sick. The man I had loved, the man I had given up everything for, was nothing more than a manipulative, cheating bastard. "I'm done," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and grief. "I'm leaving, and I'm filing for divorce." Ethan laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Go ahead. But remember, Zara, you're nothing without me. You have no job, no skills, no prospects. Good luck finding someone else to put up with your pathetic existence." I didn't bother responding. I grabbed a suitcase and started packing, throwing in clothes and essentials with trembling hands. I couldn't spend another minute in this house, with this man who had shattered my heart and my illusions. As I walked out the door, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, tinged with the bitterness of betrayal. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but anything was better than staying in a marriage built on lies and manipulation. It was time to pick up the pieces of my life and start anew, far away from Ethan and the toxic love that had nearly destroyed me. With my marriage in shambles and my heart in pieces, I found myself on my sister's doorstep, suitcase in hand. She took one look at my tear-stained face and pulled me into a tight hug, ushering me inside without a word. Over the next few days, I poured out my story to her, recounting every painful detail of Ethan's betrayal and the emotional abuse I had endured. She listened patiently, offering comfort and support, her anger at Ethan's actions simmering just beneath the surface. "You can stay here as long as you need," she assured me. "We'll get you back on your feet, Zara. You're stronger than you know." With her encouragement, I started looking for work, determined to regain my independence. I landed a job as a waitress at a high-end bistro, the kind of place Ethan and his colleagues would often frequent for business lunches. At first, I was nervous, worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the fast-paced environment and demanding customers. But as the weeks passed, I found myself thriving in the role, my natural warmth and attentiveness shining through. The regular customers began to take notice, complimenting me on my service and friendly demeanor. "You always manage to brighten my day, Zara," one elderly gentleman said, patting my hand as I refilled his coffee. "You have a real gift for making people feel welcome." Their kind words were a balm to my battered self-esteem, slowly helping me rebuild the confidence Ethan had systematically torn down. I started to see myself in a new light, not as the worthless, unlovable woman he had made me believe I was, but as someone with value and purpose. One evening, as I was clearing tables after a particularly busy shift, my manager pulled me aside. "Zara, I just wanted to let you know how impressed I am with your work," he said, smiling warmly. "You've become an integral part of our team, and the customers adore you. Keep up the great work." I thanked him, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was truly good at something, that I had a place where I belonged. As I walked home that night, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come in such a short time. Just a few months ago, I had been a broken shell of a woman, convinced that I was nothing without Ethan. But now, I was standing on my own 2 feet, building a life for myself that had nothing to do with him. When I arrived at my sister's apartment, I found a large envelope waiting for me on the kitchen table. My heart sank as I recognized Ethan's handwriting, and with trembling fingers I tore it open. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by Ethan. A note was attached, his words dripping with disdain. "I've made it easy for you, Zara. Just sign on the dotted line, and you'll be free of me. Not that anyone else would want you, but at least you won't be my problem anymore." I stared at the papers, a mix of emotions swirling within me. Relief that I could finally sever ties with the man who had caused me so much pain. Anger at the callous way he dismissed our marriage, and a tiny lingering sense of sadness for the love I had once believed we shared. But as I picked up the pen and signed my name, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I was no longer Ethan's wife, no longer bound to a man who had never truly loved me. I was Zara, a woman with her own strength, her own worth, and a future that was mine to shape. I slid the papers back into the envelope, sealing it with a sense of finality. Tomorrow I would mail them to Ethan's lawyer, and my new life would truly begin. I had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to find out. A few weeks after I sent the signed divorce papers, I decided to visit the apartment Ethan and I had once shared to collect the last of my belongings. As I stepped inside, a flood of memories washed over me, both good and bad. I pushed them aside, focusing on the task at hand. I was just finishing up when I heard the front door slam open. I spun around to see Ethan standing there, his face contorted with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he snarled, storming towards me. I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. "I'm just getting the rest of my things, Ethan. I have every right to be here." "Like hell you do," he shouted, grabbing my arm roughly. "This is my apartment, Zara. You have no claim to it anymore." I yanked my arm free, glaring at him. "Actually, Ethan, this apartment has always been in my name. My grandparents gave it to me as a gift, remember? You never had any legal right to it." His eyes widened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his face. But it was quickly replaced by fury. You can't just sell it without my consent, he bellowed. I won't let you get away with this, Zara. I'll take you to court and make your life a living hell. I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. Go ahead, Ethan. Take me to court. I'm sure the judge would love to hear about your infidelity and emotional abuse. I have plenty of evidence to back up my claims. He opened his mouth to retort, but before he could speak, the front door opened again. We both turned to see Valerie standing there, her eyes wide with shock. Ethan, what's going on? She asked, her voice trembling. I smiled coldly. Hello, Valerie. I see you two are still going strong. I hope you know what you're getting into with this one. Valerie's gaze darted between Ethan and me, confusion and fear written all over her face. Ethan, what is she talking about? Ethan's face paled, and he took a step towards her. Valerie, baby, it's not what it looks like. Zara and I are just having a little disagreement about the apartment. It's nothing to worry about. I scoffed. A little disagreement? Is that what you call it when you ambush your ex-wife and try to intimidate her into giving up her property? Valerie's eyes narrowed and she crossed her arms over her chest. Ethan, I think you have some explaining to do. I picked up my box of belongings and brushed past them, pausing in the doorway. You two deserve each other, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. But Valerie, if I were you, I'd watch my back. Ethan has a habit of lying and cheating to get what he wants. With that, I walked out, leaving them to their own devices. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I felt a sense of triumph wash over me. I had stood up to Ethan, had shown him that I was no longer the meek, submissive woman he had married. I was stronger now, and I wasn't going to let him push me around anymore. As I made my way back to my sister's apartment, I couldn't help but smile. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Free from Ethan's manipulation, free from his constant criticism and abuse. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I had survived Ethan's betrayal, had picked up the pieces of my shattered life, and put them back together. And now I was ready to start a new chapter, one where I was in control of my own destiny. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was never going to let anyone treat me the way Ethan had ever again. I was done being a victim, done being a doormat. From now on, I was going to stand up for myself and fight for the life I deserved, and heaven help anyone who tried to stand in my way. A few days after the confrontation at the apartment, I received a call from an old coworker at the law firm. She had overheard Ethan spinning a tale to Valerie about moving into his family's luxurious vacation home, and she couldn't help but reach out to me. Zara, I know it's none of my business, but I thought you should know, she said, her voice laced with concern. Ethan is lying to Valerie about his living situation. I've seen the place he's talking about, and it's a far cry from the mansion he's describing. I thanked her for the information, a plan already forming in my mind. I knew Ethan's lies were going to catch up with him sooner or later, and I was determined to be the one to expose him. I dug through my old files until I found a photo of the actual vacation home, a rundown shack that was barely habitable. Armed with this evidence, I made my way to the law firm, determined to confront Ethan and Valerie. As I walked into the office, I saw them standing together by the water cooler, laughing and flirting as if they didn't have a care in the world. I marched up to them, a smile plastered on my face. Ethan, Valerie, so good to see you both, I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness. They turned to face me, Ethan's eyes narrowing in suspicion. What are you doing here, Zara? I thought I made it clear that I didn't want you around. I ignored him, turning to Valerie. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about the vacation home, Valerie. It sounds absolutely lovely, but I think there's something you should see. I pulled out the photo of the shack, holding it up for her to see. This is the real vacation home, Valerie. The one Ethan has been lying to you about. Valerie's eyes widened, and she snatched the photo from my hand, studying it closely. Ethan, what is this? You told me it was a luxury estate with a pool and a tennis court. Ethan's face paled, and he stammered, trying to come up with an explanation. But before he could speak, I pulled out my phone, playing a series of audio recordings. The recordings were of Ethan's raunchy encounters with various women at the office, evidence gathered by a fed-up coworker who had had enough of his misconduct. The sound of his grunts and moans filled the air. interspersed with the giggling and sighing of his conquests. Valerie's face turned bright red, and she rounded on Ethan, her eyes blazing with fury. "You bastard! You've been cheating on me this whole time, haven't you? With every woman in this damn office." Ethan held up his hands, trying to placate her. "Valerie, baby, it's not what it sounds like. I can explain." But Valerie wasn't having it. She slapped him hard across the face, leaving a bright red handprint on his cheek. "Save it, Ethan. I've heard enough. I'm going straight to HR and reporting your sorry ass for sexual harassment. We'll see how long you keep your job once they hear about this." She stormed off, leaving Ethan standing there, his mouth agape. He turned to me, his eyes filled with rage and desperation. "You bitch," he snarled, taking a step towards me. "You've ruined everything. I'll make you pay for this, Zara. I swear to God, I'll destroy you." I laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You've already destroyed me, Ethan. You took everything from me, my love, my trust, my self-respect. But now it's my turn. I'm going to watch you lose everything, just like I did, and I'm going to enjoy every damn minute of it." With that, I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions. I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came out, before Ethan's web of lies unraveled completely, and when it did, I would be there to watch him fall. True to her word, Valerie marched straight into HR and reported Ethan's misconduct. She provided them with copies of the audio recordings I had shared, as well as her own testimony about his lies and infidelity. The fallout was swift and severe. Ethan was immediately suspended pending an investigation, and within a week he was fired from the law firm. His reputation was in tatters, and word quickly spread throughout the legal community about his unethical behavior. I watched from the sidelines as Ethan's life unraveled, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. He had brought this upon himself, and now he was paying the price for his actions. But even in his downfall, Ethan couldn't let go of his ego. He showed up at my sister's apartment one evening, pounding on the door and demanding to see me. I opened the door warily, keeping the chain latched. "What do you want, Ethan?" He looked haggard and desperate, his eyes bloodshot and his clothes rumpled. "Zara, please, you have to help me. I've lost everything, my job, my reputation, even Valerie. I have nowhere else to go." I stared at him incredulously. "You've got to be kidding me. After everything you've done, you have the nerve to come here and ask for my help?" He dropped to his knees, clasping his hands together in a gesture of supplication. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you, Zara. I'll do anything. Just give me another chance." I shook my head, feeling a mix of pity and disgust. "Ethan, I gave you more chances than you ever deserved. I put up with your abuse, your lies, your cheating, all because I loved you. But that love is gone now, and it's never coming back." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with tears. "Zara, please, I know I can change. I'll be a better man, I swear it. Just don't leave me like this." I sighed, closing my eyes for a moment. When I opened them again, my gaze was steady and resolute. "Ethan, I'm not leaving you. I've already left. I moved on with my life the moment I walked out of our apartment with divorce papers in hand." I reached behind the door and picked up a small box, handing it to him through the gap. "Here, I packed up the rest of your things from the apartment. Consider it my final act of kindness." He took the box, his hands shaking. "Zara, I held up a hand, cutting him off. "I don't want to hear it, Ethan. We're done. I'm done. I have a new life now, one that doesn't include you, and I suggest you start building one for yourself, because I won't be there to pick up the pieces anymore." With that, I shut the door, sliding the chain back into place. I leaned against it for a moment, taking a deep breath. I could hear Ethan on the other side, sobbing and pleading, but I tuned him out. I had meant what I said. I was done with Ethan, done with the toxic love that had nearly destroyed me. I had fought too hard and come too far to let him drag me back down into the darkness. I pushed myself off the door and walked into the living room, where my sister was waiting with a cup of tea and a sympathetic ear. I sat down beside her, taking the mug and inhaling the comforting scent of chamomile. "You did the right thing, Zara," she said, squeezing my hand. "I'm proud of you." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "I know, it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I'm ready to move on, to start a new chapter in my life." She nodded, her eyes shining with love and understanding. and I'll be right there with you, every step of the way." I leaned my head on her shoulder, feeling grateful for her unwavering support. Together we sat in silence, sipping our tea and listening to the sound of Ethan's footsteps fading away into the night. A month had passed since I last saw Ethan, and my life had taken a turn for the better. I had accepted a dream job in Seattle, working as a paralegal at a prestigious law firm. It was a fresh start, a chance to build a new life far away from the painful memories of my past. I was packing up the last of my belongings when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, looking disheveled and desperate. "Zara, please, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice hoarse. I sighed, crossing my arms over my chest. "What do you want, Ethan? I thought I made it clear that we were done." He pushed past me, stumbling into the apartment. I could smell the alcohol on his breath, and I wrinkled my nose in disgust. "I've lost everything, Zara," he slurred, collapsing onto the couch. "My job, my reputation, even my apartment. I've been sleeping on friends' couches and in my car. I'm drowning in debt, and I don't know what to do." I stared at him, feeling a mix of pity and revulsion. "I'm sorry to hear that, Ethan, but what do you want me to do about it? You brought this on yourself." He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot and pleading. "I need you, Zara. I need you to give me another chance. I know I can change. I know I can be better. Just please, don't leave me like this." I shook my head, a sad smile playing at the corners of my mouth. "Ethan, I've given you more chances than I can count, and every time you've let me down. You've hurt me in ways I never thought possible, and I can't go through that again." He reached for me, his hands shaking. "But I love you, Zara. I've always loved you. We can make this work. I know we can." I stepped back out of his reach. "No, Ethan, we can't. Because the truth is, you never loved me. You loved the idea of me, of having someone to control and manipulate. But that's not love, and it never will be." I walked over to the door, opening it wide. "I think it's time for you to go, Ethan. I have a new life waiting for me, and you're not a part of it." He stumbled to his feet, his face twisted with anger and desperation. "You can't do this to me, Zara. You can't just walk away like this." I smiled, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. "I can, and I am. Goodbye, Ethan." He stared at me for a long moment, his eyes filled with a mix of rage and despair. Then, without another word, he walked out the door and out of my life. I closed the door behind him, leaning against it for a moment. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It was finally over. I was free. I walked over to the window, looking out at the city skyline. In the distance, I could see the Space Needle, a symbol of the new life that awaited me. I smiled, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. I had a new job, a new city, and a new love waiting for me. A man I had met at the bistro, a kind and gentle soul who had helped me heal and find happiness again. I picked up my suitcase, taking one last look around the apartment. It had been my home for so long, but now it was time to say goodbye. I walked out the door, feeling a sense of lightness and freedom. The past was behind me, and the future was bright with promise. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I couldn't help but smile. I had survived the worst that life had thrown at me, and I had come out stronger on the other side. I was ready for whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the new chapter in my life with open arms. And as I walked down the street, I knew that nothing could ever hold me back again.
"Give me your house. It used to belong to my husband. What's wrong with his wife using it? He's a fool, isn't he? Why did he entrust the house to his failed firstborn son instead of his lovely second son? And you, the pathetic wife who married that failure, are leading such a good life. I don't get it."
"She's right. We deserve to live in this house. You two jerks aren't worthy to live here. If you don't get out of here, we're gonna have to play hardball." "Well, you'll just have to struggle through it and give up anyways. The house will eventually be ours." From that day on, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law started harassing me. They were not afraid to use any means necessary, and I finally couldn't take it anymore. "Okay, I'll give up the house." They despised and talked bad about my husband,
but I couldn't fight back anymore. I couldn't even protect my father-in-law's house. I was so disappointed at myself for not being able to do anything about it. My name is Nadia, and my husband is Derek. Derek's father was the president of a company before his death. He was both strict with his work and kind to his family, and he left Derek and I a luxury home where we now live together. Derek has taken over the company and became the president, and has recently started working abroad on his own for business reasons. The house was too big for just the two of us to live in, so Derek's absence has made it even more lonely. It is a beautiful house with a lot of rooms that my father-in-law left us. Every day, I was busy cleaning and doing laundry while sweating like crazy. Then one day, suddenly the doorbell rang. I went to the front door to see who it was, and there was Jessica, my mother-in-law, and Kevin, my brother-in-law. I have to admit that I didn't have a good feeling about their arrival. These two are the polar opposites of my father-in-law. Jessica is always defending her money, and Kevin was holding some kind of grudge over his brother Derek. I was hoping nothing would happen, as Jessica and Kevin made their way into the house without responding to my greetings. "Jessica, stop!" "What's the problem? It's my husband's house to begin with. I don't like it when you act as if it's yours." Snickering and without any hesitation, Jessica began to explore all the rooms without asking, as if she had come to a viewing. There was no point in warning Jessica. She would never listen to me. I decided to speak to Kevin, who was with her. "Kevin, would you please say something to your mother?" "No way. Kids have to listen to their parents, so I'm not going to do it." Kevin was just like Jessica, and he was amused at my annoyance. "Okay, I've decided now. We're moving here." My mother-in-law said to me with a satisfied look on her face as she finished looking around the house. "You've got to be kidding me. There was no way she could just show up out of the blue and move in here. No matter what she was, it was unacceptable." "Don't be silly. Don't you have the slightest common sense?" Raising my voice, I turned them away. "How can you be so disrespectful to your husband's mother? What's with that attitude?" Jessica was shouting the whole time I was trying to kick them out. Because of her behaviors, it wasn't obvious who was the victim here. I was so embarrassed seeing her so loud and not even caring about the neighbors. Derek isn't here, so what can you do on your own?" Jessica gave a nasty smile and pointed at Kevin. "Kevin, don't you do anything evil, okay? But do something to make her want to voluntarily leave the house." "Roger that. I'll take care of it." Kevin nodded as if it were a matter of course, with a creepy smirk on his face. The two left that day, but there was no way they would stop with just that. I was anxious to see what they would do next, and as expected, the next morning they started to make their move. There was food waste spread in front of our front door. When I saw that they had also mercilessly dumped the waste on the flower bed that my father-in-law had cherished before his death, I was speechless. I managed to clean up the mess and repair the flower bed, but the harassment was just the beginning. I started getting silent phone calls in the middle of the night, and often all the contents of my mailbox were opened up. And to top it all off, there was a paper in my neighbor's mailbox stating that I was having an affair while Derek was away. The neighbor's wife told me that she had received several of these in her mailbox. She suspected the contents and reported it to me, which means there are many people who actually believe this and still keep quiet to me. Little by little, I was getting mentally trapped, and I was close to my limit. I didn't tell Derek because I didn't want to disturb his work. But after about a month of harassment, I finally called him and opened up to him about it. Derek was furious when he heard what I had gone through. Jessica and Kevin's reckless actions are nothing new. Derek is Jessica's stepson and is only half-blood related to Kevin. Jessica never cared for Derek as a son and treated him badly, favoring Kevin over Derek. So, it is understandable that they may feel that it is unfair that Derek is the only one who gets to keep a position in the company, the house, and so on. It is true that my father-in-law was more often on Derek's side than Kevin's during his lifetime. However, it was not just because of his favoritism, but because Derek was a person who put in a lot of effort. Kevin was a bit more cunning than Derek. He was often tempted to use the wrong move in order to get a good result and be praised for it. But his father had no intention of letting Kevin take over the company, as he was spoiled by Jessica, who praised him for his cheating. After his father passed away, the distribution of inheritance caused a complete breakdown of the family relationship, which led to the kind of harassment we have today. Derek has put up with Jessica's harassment for a long time, but now that he knows that it is being directed at me, he has expressed his anger and his refusal to tolerate it. And so, Derek suggested a plan. I nodded in agreement. The next morning, I called up Jessica just to tell her one thing. We have decided to let go of the house. Jessica was obviously overjoyed. She did not yet realize that she had fallen for a plan. A few days later, Jessica and Kevin arrived at the house to move in. But when they came, they were stunned. The house we used to live in was already occupied by the vice president of Derek's company, along with his wife and daughter. The vice president was a good friend of my father-in-law, and was assisting Derek, who was now the president of the company. Both Jessica and Kevin knew of him, so the moment they saw his face, they realized that Derek and I set them up. Jessica and Kevin started shouting at the doorstep of the house that was not theirs. That was the cue for Derek and I to come out from the back of the house. We had talked through our plan with the vice president, so we were able to visit on the day Jessica and Kevin were trying to move in. While Jessica and Kevin's faces turned red, the vice president's wife was giggling uncontrollably in the back of the house, saying she couldn't put on a poker face unlike her husband.
Why do you always get everything?
Unlike Jessica, who was furious, Kevin seemed somewhat sad.
You're the only one who gets favored by Dad. It's true that he left me some money, too, but you got this house, and you're even the president of the company. It's not fair. It's not fair? He was looking out for you, you know.
Derek scolded Kevin in a strong tone.
You've been spending Dad's money like a fool, trying to impress everyone around you. He sent you to different kinds of lessons to get you to change your mind, but you skipped them. You even bought a ton of luxury brand goods for your friends there, just to get them to follow you, and you got all big-headed. And yet, he still shared some of his inheritance with you, because he still believes in you. Don't you think? You're going to betray him again?
After that, the vice president placed his hands on Derek's shoulder. Then he stood in front of Kevin and started speaking gently.
The former president talked about you all the time, that you're his lovely son, but someone had to be tough on you. He said that even if he doesn't like me in the end, I'll have to do it for my son's sake. Isn't he a wonderful father?
When Kevin heard that, he fell silent. His mother was still ranting on about how much he didn't understand the situation, but it was Kevin who stopped her. Kevin led her home.
I'm sorry, Derek.
Kevin's voice sounded soft and gentle as he left with Jessica. In contrast to the reformed Kevin, Jessica could not give up on the luxurious house. Though Kevin no longer took part in the harassment, Jessica apparently broke in through a window alone while the vice president and his family were away. Since the house had security, she was immediately caught by the police. According to the report, Jessica was sitting on the sofa watching TV when the police rushed in, as if she owned the house. Maybe, in Jessica's mind, the house really belonged to her. After Jessica was caught, Derek and I went to visit the vice president's house. Even though it was a consensual plan, a simple apology wasn't enough since the damage was done to the house we had given them. As I was talking to the vice president while handing him a gift of apology, the doorbell rang. The vice president went to the front door and brought in Kevin. "I apologize for everything that happened." Kevin bowed deeply as he entered the room. He then told us about what he had gone through. Kevin had been raised by Jessica while feeling the pressure from her to take over as the president of the company. He had cheated in many ways to surpass Derek in some way. Jessica, who did not care about this process, began to praise Kevin for cheating, and it became natural for him to do so. A mother who praises and a father who scolds for cheating. Kevin, caught between the two unbalanced adults, became a distorted adult. And yet, in his heart, he still had his father's righteous teachings lying dormant. The current turmoil has awakened him. It was not that his father had abandoned him, but that he had not faced his father properly. Kevin was shocked to hear the vice president's words that day, and he could no longer turn his back on the differences between himself and his brother, who was the one who inherited many things from their father. This is how it ended up, but it was a chance for Kevin to distance himself from Jessica, and he decided to go on with his life and not to be controlled by her. And he decided to come here first.
I wanted to apologize to the vice president for all the trouble I put him through, and to my brother and father for scolding me. I see. You're finally grown up now. But how did you know we're here?
Derek looks at the vice president. The vice president smiles happily.
I've followed your plan once, so I've got to follow your brother's plan too. I'm on both of your sides.
Vice President, man, you've been helping me in my professional and personal life, huh?
If my best friend's child says that about me, I couldn't be happier.
Derek and Kevin talked for a while after that. Their previously distant relationship was finally restored like that of normal siblings.
Derek, I'm going to do what I want to do from now on, not what Mom wants me to do.
That's good. What are you going to do then?
It's pretty cliché, but I'm thinking of backpacking abroad. I'm going on a journey of self-discovery.
Backpacking abroad? I see. That would be a great experience. I'll be rooting for you. Derek smiled, nodded, and patted Kevin on the shoulder.
Maybe, when we get settled, we can go visit our dad's graves together. Yeah, I'll be a better man by then.
And then, Derek and Kevin parted ways. I soon got pregnant, and Derek decided to officially return as Kevin left the country, like they were taking turns. Although they miss each other like that, I'm sure their connection has become stronger than anyone else's. Kevin now occasionally contacts Derek. This must be a picture taken with some of the children he met. Kevin is smiling happily as he waves at the camera. It's hard to imagine that this is the Kevin I know. Kevin had always been interested in various cultures of the world. He seems to have realized the benefits of working hard and earning a living by working as an interpreter while traveling. Derek seemed happy to see that he no longer had to worry about Kevin. He's always been like this. This country must have been a very tight place for him. He picked up a photo Kevin had sent him and handed me one as well.
You'd think so too, don't you, Mom?
Derek said, and Jessica, who was sitting next to me, looked remorseful and quietly drank her tea. Jessica had been arrested that day, but had been released at the pleasure of the vice president. In exchange, he had made one condition, that was to give Kevin his freedom. Jessica accepted the condition, but when she saw Kevin looking so happy and free, she must have felt deep regret in her actions. The unruly Jessica was nowhere to be found. Did Kevin not need me?
No, he needed you. You just did it the wrong way.
She looked at Kevin's picture and sighed. Jessica, I'll go get you another cup of tea. I got up from my seat, and Jessica followed me into the kitchen. I am sorry to ask this now, but I was wondering if you could teach me how to make your tea. I feel like it tastes better than the tea I make. I don't think there's such a difference. I don't do anything unusual. It's just a little trick. Now that Kevin is gone, Jessica has become a sweet woman. She has more time to herself, and I guess she's had some time to think things through. I felt like I could get along with Jessica now. Now that I am about to give birth, the three of us, including Jessica, are living together. As my bump gradually gets bigger and I have difficulty moving around, Jessica helps me with housework and takes care of me. I wonder if this awkwardness between us will disappear by the time my child is born. I sipped the tea that Jessica had made for me and wondering things like that. It was a delicious tea, just the way I like it.
My son deserves someone better than you. Get a divorce right away. I won't have nothing to do with you anymore. Okay, I got it. After that, I sent all of my husband's belongings to my mother-in-law's house. What's happening? How did I get into this mess? I addressed my flustered mother-in-law in icy tone. Well, I guess you got what you deserved. My name is Nora. I'm a 30-year-old administrative assistant. I'm in a relationship with Lucas, whom I met at a party. He's 3 years older than me and is alluring. I was immediately head over heels for him, who was affable and seemed to be serious about his job. We never ceased to carry on our conversations and exchanged our numbers at the end of the night. From then, he started asking me out, and after a few casual dates, we became official. After a year and a half of being together, we were very much in love, and I hope to marry him someday. Then, on my birthday, he popped the question. I just thought he had made a reservation at a fancy restaurant to celebrate, but it turned out to be a surprise proposal. He gave me a birthday gift, so I was totally oblivious to his true intention, and was thrilled when it happened. Of course my answer was yes, and we were engaged. I was overjoyed that my soulmate proposed to me as a surprise on my birthday. At the time, I had no idea that this marriage would cause me so much trouble. We introduced each other to our families and got married without incident. He moved into my apartment, which belonged to my mom, to start our new life. My grandpa owned a business, and my mom had been studying investment with him since she was young. She continued her dealing after I was born, and she now has considerable assets in real estate and so on. The apartment I was living in was one of the real estate she purchased for investment. Since there was no rent to pay, we considered it a perfect opportunity to save money while starting our newlywed life. And that's why Lucas moved in. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, so there was plenty of space for the two of us. He asked me to be a full-time housewife when we got married. I didn't have any particular attachment to my job, and I had a longing to be a full-time homemaker. I quickly agreed and quit my job. Since then, I worked hard to make a comfortable home as a supportive wife. I cleaned, did laundry, and cooked as best as I could, and my hobby of baking got better and better. As a result, my time at home became more and more fulfilling. Lucas, who had a sweet tooth, was in ecstasy while eating cakes and other treats I made. These are really delicious. Thanks, Han. It goes well with coffee. We were leading a very joyful and loving newlywed life. But then, a disruptive presence appeared to disturb us. It was my mother-in-law, Grace. One day, she suddenly showed up at our apartment. Oh, Grace, what's going on? What? I'm not allowed to come to my son's house without a reason? No, that's not how I meant. It's just that if you plan to come, it'd be great if you could give us a heads up beforehand so we can get things organized. If I had known she was coming, I'd have kept the cake I baked and served it with coffee. While I was thinking about that, she wandered around the apartment on her own, peering into rooms without asking. What are you doing, Grace? I'm curious to see what the rooms are like. Or what? Is there something you don't want me to see? It's not like that, but... Once she finished, she sat down on the sofa in the living room. Nora, you're so thoughtless. Can't you offer a drink or something? But you're busy looking around the apartment on your own. Are you blaming me for your own lack of consideration? I can't prepare anything with you snooping around, you know. You're talking back to me. You're so arrogant for a daughter-in-law. Her eyes widened and she got upset with me. It was obviously her fault for showing up without notice, so I couldn't understand why she was mad at me. She stayed for a while and made me prepare lunch. She even demanded dessert after that. I only have the same sweets when you came over last time. Jesus, you're so inconsiderate. Who showed up without any prior notice? I feel sorry for Lucas for having such an incompetent wife. You should be more responsible. It seemed she was eager to bully me. She casually uttered unreasonable things to trouble me, and then got angry with me. I guess she wanted to relieve her stress by blaming me in that way. In fact, after she scolded me, she wore a smug expression as if she had won. She needed to revel in a sense of superiority over me. Her personality was truly disgusting. She was quiet when we first met, but once we got married, she started to show her true color. On that day, I was constantly subjected to sarcastic remarks from her, and it really wore me out. I spoke to Lucas about her when he got home from work. Honey, your mom came out of the blue today, and it was really troublesome. She complained about everything in the house, and she gave me a lecture about my homemaking skills. Yeah, I heard from her. Oh, really? She left before he came back, so I thought she was keeping it a secret from him. She said she did an unannounced survey to see if you were doing the chores properly. Seriously? She was a little disappointed. She said you weren't as good of a homemaker as she expected. But she came right after you left for work. I think it's impossible to have finished cleaning or anything at that time of the day. She said you tend to talk back like that. She was right. You should try to listen to people's opinions more carefully and make an effort to improve. Are you kidding me? He unbelievably took her words to his heart and made a statement siding with her. Hold on, You know that I do my chores properly, don't you? Isn't that just superficial? I don't know how you're spending your time during the day, so I'll have to trust what my mom says. From now on, she'll be coming every week to teach you, so listen to her, okay? You've got me kidding me. Why do you decide such things on your own? That's because you aren't doing your job right. Mom says she's not going to give up on you, and instead, she's going to help you. You should be grateful. I was at a loss for words. Grace's bullying was one thing, but Lucas's attitude was also unbelievable. Why was he controlled by her? I protested desperately, but he wouldn't listen. Then Grace really began to come to our place every week. Lucas gave her the code and a spare key without telling me, and she just opened the gate and the front door as she pleased. Well, let's start with the cleaning first. But before that, bring me coffee and some pastries. She had me prepare drinks and snacks for her relaxation while she lazed around on the sofa, making me do the chores. Then, at her convenience, she came over and yelled, "It's still dirty. You really suck at cleaning." And when she made me prepare lunch for her, she criticized the food. "What do you think you're doing by serving such a pathetic meal?" She bullied me every week and then left, looking satisfied with herself. She always reported to Lucas that I wasn't improving, and he believed her and blamed me for it. Even if I wanted to keep her out of the apartment, she had a spare key. I once tried to prevent her from entering by locking a bolt. She made a big deal about it, and immediately called Lucas. Since then, she showed up during the morning hours when he was still at home to let her in. You know, Nora can't keep up with my instruction and did a terrible thing. I need to knock some sense into that lazy and rotten spirit of hers. I'm counting on you, Mom. I never thought she'd be such a hopeless daughter-in-law. What on earth did they think I was? I had no idea that Lucas was such a mommy's boy. I was mentally and physically exhausted from being bullied by Grace repeatedly. Then one day, Lucas announced the unthinkable. I'm going on a business trip today, so I asked Mom to stay here for 3 days. Excuse me? I couldn't believe my ears. No way, you can't be serious. Well, I am, he replied with a shrug of his shoulders. Then Grace arrived with a large travel bag. Good morning, Mom. Take good care of Nora from today, will you? Of course I will. As her mother-in-law, I'll make sure you're well trained. She grinned at me. Lucas took his carry-on and went on a business trip. I was in despair. I couldn't believe that I was alone with her for the next 3 days. I knew she was going to use me like a slave. But then something changed inside my brain. I realized that Lucas would continue to take his mom's side. If that was the case, I had no obligation to obey both of them. Nora, get breakfast ready quickly. I didn't have time to eat. Make me pancakes with fruits and vanilla ice cream. I'm in the mood for cafe au lait. Sweeten it up and get it ready. With that, she sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. She smirked at me as I prepared the ingredients. She thought that she was going to use me like a housekeeper from then on, and that she was going to enjoy a leisurely time. I wasn't going to allow that. I prepared what she wanted, put it on the table, and started to eat it myself. She got up from the sofa, and the moment she looked at me, Her eyes widened in surprise. Hey, what do you think you're doing? What do you mean I'm eating my breakfast? Yes, that's mine, isn't it? What are you talking about? Since I used the ingredients in this house to make it, this is my breakfast. Thank you for the idea though. It's delicious. Don't you dare mock me. You think you're allowed to do this? I'll tell Lucas, so be prepared. Yeah, go ahead. If you want to interfere with him while he's busy working, be my guest. She was reaching for her phone, but my comment seems to dissuade her. She was aware that calling him on a business trip and bothering me would have been a nuisance. You finish eating that and make mine. Why should I do that? I'm a guest. You came here on your own. I didn't invite you. How arrogant can you get? I'm so mad. Divorce my son. He deserves better than you. So get a divorce. I want to have nothing to do with you. Divorce? I see. Have you finally understood your position? If you get divorced, you won't be able to live in this beautiful apartment, you know. You have a good life now thanks to Lucas, and yet you're incredibly audacious. You should reflect on your past arrogance while living in a random apartment or something. She had a triumphant expression on her face. Okay, I got it. I'll divorce him. Really? She was surprised that I obeyed so easily, but she quickly returned to her smug smile. You just agreed, right? You can't take it back later, you know. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to change my mind. In fact, you're not going to take it back either, are you? Of course not. Oh, I'm delighted. Now Lucas can find a decent woman. She rejoiced, and I thought that line belonged to me instead. I've got some packing to do, so could you please go home now? I'm not going to follow any more of your orders about housework or anything. When I told her that, she shrugged her shoulders. Well, I guess so. If you leave, I'll have the freedom to come and go in this apartment as I please. Then she left excitedly. I started packing up things in haste. Of course, they weren't my things, but Lucas's belongings. And then I sent all of them to his family home. I also changed the locks. Neither he nor Grace could have entered the house anymore. A couple of days later, I got a call from Lucas. Oh, hey, why won't the door open? Are you at home? I'm at my parents' house. What are you doing there? I mean, why isn't my key working? Oh, I changed the locks. What do you mean? We are getting a divorce. Divorce? I've sent all your stuff to your parents' house. No way. Jeez, how did you come up with divorce? You'll have to ask Grace about that. I gotta go. Oh, wait. After I hung up on him, he apparently went to see Grace right away. Sometime later, I received a call from him again. Honey, did you seriously move all my stuff out? I told you so, didn't I? I'm divorcing you. Hold on, I never agreed. Mom took the initiative and pushed things right. Well then, it's invalid. I didn't think I could stay married to you. Your mom is entirely at fault, but you're also in the wrong for siding with her. He finally understood his position. It's my fault. From now on, I won't take her side. I'll make her apologize to you too. Mom, apologize to Nora. He then gave the phone to Grace. What's going on? How is this happening to me? Doesn't the apartment belong to Lucas? How are you staying there? Are you still saying things like that at this point? The apartment belongs to my mother. Lucas has no right to anything. He just moved in after we got married. That can't be true. But it is. Oh, and I have recordings and diary entries of all the verbal abuse and mistreatment from you. What? I've sent copies of those as well, just as I finished my sentence. Does she mean this? I had my father-in-law's voice in the back. Apparently, he was around. He played the recorded audio I made. From the stereo, I could hear Grace's voice yelling. The volume was loud enough for me to hear it even over the phone. Wait, when did you make this? Jesus, what's this all about? Have you been skipping out on housework and bullying Nora at her house the full time? I heard my father-in-law yelling at Grace. Oh, well, you see. Nora, please explain to him. I was just teaching you housework. I addressed the flustered Grace in an icy tone. You've been coming to my place to bully me. I knew it. I can't put up with you anymore. Let's get a divorce. With that, I heard him walk away. Nora, because of you, I might lose everything. What are you going to do about it? Well, I guess you deserved it. I'm the victim here. I could even consider suing for emotional distress I've endured. Oh no, I didn't mean to. Anyway, divorce is inevitable, so please convey this to Lucas, who's probably frozen in place there. If he doesn't comply, I'll take legal action. I hung up the phone. After that, Lucas called me several times, but I ignored him and demanded a divorce through my lawyer. He resisted for a while, but eventually gave in and agreed to it. Later, my father-in-law filed for divorce from Grace, and she was kicked out from the house. Lucas is now living in a rented apartment, where Grace forced herself to move in with him. He is constantly angry and blames her. It's all your fault. And Grace fights back. It's your fault for not explaining things properly. They fight every day. I've received an email from him saying he wants to reconcile and promises to treat me better this time, after reporting his current situation with his mother. I've been ignoring all of them. If he continues to pester me in the future, I'm thinking of consulting the police. Well, he's a coward, so if I mention the word police, he'll freak out and run away. Now, I'm living alone in a spacious apartment. I'll most likely obtain half of the money Lucas earned during our marriage through the property division, so I plan to take my time and look for a job at my own pace.
Never mind our adorable daughter, but I'll have to see your face so much from next week that I'll probably grow tired of it. Doesn't have to be a video call, right?
My husband, who is currently on a business trip, turned off the camera as soon as the video call with our daughter ended. Lately, he has been distant like this towards me. Despite feeling hurt, I continued the conversation and asked him about the flight schedule for next week and made arrangements for his pickup. The conversation quickly ended. Well, I'm going to hang up now. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Just as she was about to hang up after hearing her husband's response, she heard him say these words.
Alright, it's safe now. Hey, you can come back to this room.
It seems like my husband mistakenly thought the call had ended. Upon overhearing the conversation between him and another person, I made up my mind to send him to hell. My name is Alice. I am a 34-year-old working woman. I met my husband Dominic at the company where we both worked when we were single. We were colleagues in the same department, and as we got along well both professionally and personally, we fell in love and started dating. In our second year of dating, Dominic proposed to me, and I happily accepted. Both of our parents were thrilled, and even our mutual boss blessed us. We had a blissful wedding. Afterward, I became pregnant quickly. To prepare for parenthood, I resigned from my job right after giving birth so I could work from home. Since then, I have been working from home as a self-employed individual, while Dominic continued to work at his original company. Our daughter, Emma, was born during that time. Dominic lifted the newborn Emma and said the following.
She's so adorable. Alice, thank you for giving birth to such a cute daughter.
It seems like you're already proudly displaying your parental affection.
What's wrong with that? Emma, I'm your daddy.
While witnessing such a scene, I truly felt that marrying Dominic was the best decision I had ever made, from the bottom of my heart. In fact, he was quite cooperative when it came to childcare. He didn't do much housework, but it seemed like he found Emma exceptionally adorable. He took the initiative in handling tasks like feeding her milk and changing diapers. Emma, who was like that, is now 5 years old this year. She attends kindergarten, and with Dominic's gentle care, she has grown into a lovely little princess. Since 2 years ago, Dominic has been on a solo assignment in another region. It seems Dominic had reservations about being separated from Emma, but couldn't go against the company's decision. Reluctantly, he complied. Initially, I also had concerns about my husband, who was a partner in parenting, going far away. However, my parents at home encouraged me by offering their support, and my in-laws who live nearby said the following.
Alice, while Dominic is away, if you have any problems or difficulties, don't hesitate to rely on us.
My father-in-law is physically imposing and has a stern appearance. To put it bluntly, he looks intimidating. According to my husband, he used to be quite a strict person, being a former police officer. So even now, Dominic isn't very comfortable around his father. However, my father-in-law has always been kind to both me and Emma, and I've considered him to be a wonderful person. On the other hand, his mother-in-law is gentle and calm.
To us, Alice is a precious daughter, and Emma is our beloved granddaughter. While Dominic is away, we'll do anything we can to help.
I cherished my mother-in-law just as much as my own mother. Emma also considers Dominic's parents as her grandparents. With their help, I felt that I could endure my husband's 2-year solo assignment. That's what I believed. And now Dominic is entering his second year of being away on assignment. He will be returning here in 3 more months. Both Emma, Dominic, and I were looking forward to it eagerly. And at that moment, Emma was having her usual video call with Dominic.
Daddy, today I played a lot with my friends from kindergarten.
That's great, Emma.
On the other side of the video call, my husband was still completely smitten with Emma.
But Daddy, one of my friends had a Cinderella doll and I want one too.
I see. I'll buy one for you right away.
I hurriedly interjected, saying, Wait a minute. I just bought her a toy the other day because she kept asking for it. I've been meaning to say this for a while, but please, don't just give in and buy everything she asks for. While it may sound like I'm spoiling Emma when I dote on her, there are times when it seems like he's just indulging our daughter too much from my perspective. He ends up buying her whatever she likes and easily indulges our daughter's whims. Just recently, he bought her a makeup set that cost over $130 just because Emma wanted it, even though she's still too young for it. At that moment, Dominic wore an unhappy expression during the video call.
What's the big deal? It's just something small like that. Don't you think Emma is cute?
Of course she's adorable. That's exactly why we need to teach her some restraint.
You're being too strict with Emma, don't you think?
Dominic and I had somehow started a minor argument without realizing it. That's when Emma interrupted, saying,
Mom and Dad, don't fight. I don't need the Cinderella doll. Just get along, okay?
As Emma sniffled, I quickly apologized, but Dominic still seemed dissatisfied.
See, you make Emma cry like this. Are you some kind of monster?
Let's stop this in front of Emma. We'll talk later over the phone.
No need for you to call later, especially not for Emma. Goodbye, Emma. Daddy will be back soon.
I sighed and ended the video call. Lately, Dominic and I haven't been getting along well. The main cause of our arguments has been our differing approaches to Emma's upbringing. But besides that, I feel like Dominic has become distant from me in some way. In the early days of his assignment, he used to have long phone conversations with me even after Emma had fallen asleep. But that has also dwindled away. Nowadays, he only engages in video calls with Emma, and it seems like talking to me is a burden for him. He used to be such a good husband and a good father. Is there some reason behind this change? Can we go back to being the happy couple we once were when he returns? I had started to think like that without realizing it. This happened 2 weeks before Dominic's solo assignment was about to end. As usual, Emma and Dominic were having a video call. I had some household chores that required my attention, so I wasn't listening to their conversation. After finishing the video call, Emma happily rushed over to me.
You know, Daddy said he's going to buy what I want.
Huh? Again? Dominic seems to be planning to buy another toy. I asked Emma with a sigh. Emma, you should stop asking Daddy for everything. So what did you ask for this time?
You see? I asked Daddy for a little brother or sister.
Huh?
The stork is going to bring a little brother or sister real soon. Just wait, you'll see. Yay!
Certainly, Emma had been saying things like this lately. However, due to Dominic's solo assignment and our age, we had no plans to have more children. So to readily agree to something like this, I immediately called Dominic.
Hello, what's up?
In response to somewhat grumpy husband, I calmly told him. Emma told me. Did you really agree to her wanting a little brother or sister?
Well...
Dominic's voice sounded a bit awkward. No, that's not okay. We've already decided that we're not having any more children, right?
Well, I mean, it was just a figure of speech.
Anyway, don't give her false hope. I'll make sure to clarify things with Emma myself. There was silence from Dominic on the other end of the call. I spoke up to him in response. Hey, are you even listening?
Ugh, shut up. Don't interfere in the promise between me and Emma.
Huh? It's your casual attitude that's at fault here.
Seriously, you're just so unlikable. That's why I can't stand it. I'm fed up with the idea of living with you again.
Come on, don't say it like that.
I'm going to hang up. Don't call me unless you have a reason.
My husband said those cold words and hung up the phone. I was left to ponder Dominic's words, feeling down. And then the following week, Dominic and Emma had their usual video call.
Emma dear, Daddy will be back next week, okay?
Really? Yay!
I was listening to this conversation next to Emma. When their conversation ended, I addressed the video call screen. Dominic, I have something to talk about. Then Dominic turned off the camera and switched to a regular voice call.
Emma aside, I'm going to see your face as much as I hate to next week, so it's a voice-only call, okay?
I was hurt, but proceeded with the conversation. I asked about the flight time for next week in a businesslike manner, arranged for the pickup, and the conversation quickly ended. Well then, I'll hang up. Good night.
Yeah, sure. Good night.
Dominic said this, and I was about to hang up, but a few seconds later I heard a voice like this.
It's all right now. Hey, you can come back to this room.
At that moment, a question mark suddenly crossed my mind. Was my husband with someone else?
I've been waiting long enough.
I heard an unfamiliar, sweet, and high-pitched woman's voice from the other end of the call. Dominic thinks he hung up the call? No, more importantly, could he have brought a woman to his apartment during his business trip? With trembling hands, I operated my phone and pressed the record button for the call.
You seem to be having a lively conversation with your wife, and it makes me jealous.
Hey, I'm only having official communication with my wife. Can't be helped.
Our conversation echoed in the background along with some rustling sounds.
By the way, you will be returning to your family soon, won't you?
It's what the company decided. I wish I could be with you more.
All you do is lie. You can't wait to see your daughter.
Well, Emma is such an adorable daughter. If you remarry me, you're going to love Emma too, okay?
I was taken aback, my hand covering my mouth. Remarry? Adore Emma? What are these two talking about?
By the way, do you think the divorce will go smoothly?
She's strict with Emma. Even if it goes to court, I can use that as an advantage. I'll get custody of Emma. Then you, Mira, can move here and we can get remarried.
That sounds good. I'll prepare for it so I can become Emma's mom too.
Speaking of which, Emma mentioned wanting a little brother or sister.
Really? In that case, we should prepare for that too.
Then Dominic and Mira began their sleazy antics on the other end of the phone. While recording the unbearable audio, I trembled with anger. They not only betrayed me, but also planned to take Emma away from me. I will never forgive them. I will beat these people to hell. I clutched my phone with trembling hands. I couldn't sleep that night. I shed tears while watching Emma sleep peacefully. But I knew I had to become strong to protect Emma. I made up my mind to face this alone. The very next day, I started taking action immediately. I called his former boss, Luke, who has supported him during his single days.
Hey, it's been a while. Are you doing well?
Luke, it's been a long time. I have a few questions to ask. Through Luke, I learned about something important. Once that was settled, I immediately contacted my family and explained the situation to them. My family was surprised, but willingly accepted my proposal. And finally, I headed to my in-laws' house. 1 week later, I entrusted Emma to my family and waited at home. I heard the sound of the door opening and Dominic entered.
Hey, why are you ignoring my calls? We had an agreement that you'd pick me up at the airport, right?
Dominic shouted at me while carrying his suitcase. As he entered the room, he looked around and asked,
Where's Emma? I was looking forward to seeing her. Where is she?
Just sit down here. We need to talk. I calmly told him, and reluctantly, my husband sat down across from the dining table.
So, what's this about?
You were having an affair while on your business trip, weren't you?
What?
Dominic's gaze suddenly started to wander. I continued matter-of-factly. So, what's the truth? Were you having an affair?
What are you talking about? You're just making things up.
I remained silent and started to play the recorded audio from that day on my phone. Dominic's face turned pale instantly.
Huh? What is this?
You thought you had hung up, but you hadn't. Thanks to that, I collected enough evidence. Now admit it with your own words. Finally, Dominic decided to come clean.
Oh, that's right. I found a cute girlfriend over there. Younger and with a better personality than you. You're no longer of any use to me. Leave Emma and get the hell out of here.
Then the next moment, the door to the room leading to the living room burst open. As Dominic saw the person standing there, his eyes widened like saucers. There, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and his boss, Luke, were present.
Dad? And Mom? And Luke? Why are you all here? You stupid son.
My father-in-law shouted briefly and then approached Dominic. He grabbed Dominic by the collar and executed a perfect throw, slamming Dominic onto the floor. Dominic's eyes rolled in pain.
Hey, Dad, why are you suddenly doing this? It hurts. What are you doing, you idiot? You betrayed Alice, who had been working hard to raise your child while you were away. Don't you feel ashamed for indulging in affairs while she was giving her all? Well, it couldn't be helped. Everyone makes mistakes, right?
At that moment, my mother-in-law interjected sharply. Mistake? No, this is a blatant betrayal. With a son like you, I can't face Alice and her family.
Mom? Calm down. Isn't it fine to cast off a wife like this?
Dominic desperately appealed to his parents.
Even if we get divorced, I'll still get custody. You both can continue to dote on Emma just like before. I'll bring a better wife than this old hag.
Then my mother-in-law delivered a powerful slap to him in silence. After a moment of silence, it was his boss, Luke, who spoke next.
Dominic, I investigated it. And it seems your affair partner is Mira, one of the office clerks at the branch, right? Rumors about this have been circulating for a while. What? The company is considering serious consequences. Be prepared for possible termination. This can't be.
Cornered, Dominic finally turned to me for support, with my in-laws and Luke glaring at him.
I'm sorry, Alice. Please, forgive me. I'll settle things with her, and from now on, let's live together as a family of 3. See? Everything will work out fine.
I pushed Dominic away and shouted loudly. You've got to be kidding me. I'm getting a divorce from you. I'll demand alimony from both of you, so just wait for it. Of course, I'll have custody. After betraying the family with your infidelity, there's no way you can raise Emma, right?
No, I can't live without Emma, please.
Don't ever show that face to me again, you scumbag. With those words, my father-in-law grabbed Dominic by the collar and silently dragged him to the front door. My mother-in-law repeatedly lowered her head to me, and I received kind encouragement from Luke. Later on, Dominic and I got divorced. He sought custody of Emma, which led to mediation, but due to my track record in raising her and evidence of his infidelity, custody quickly became mine. Subsequently, I also demanded alimony from Dominic and Mira. Since both of them had been fired from their jobs, they paid it from their savings, which apparently left them with nothing. They blamed each other and eventually broke up. My father-in-law promised to ensure that Dominic paid child support, and he threw Dominic onto a friend's tuna fishing boat. Dominic is now earning Emma's child support while working on the boat. On the other hand, I returned to my parents' house with Emma, and I'm leading a peaceful life. Emma doesn't seem too concerned about her separation from her father, as long as she has her mother. For now, I feel relieved. However, I frequently introduce Emma to my in-laws, who love and cherish her. My daughter also loves them dearly. From now on, I will remember my debt to my in-laws for taking my side and to Luke for helping me. I want to live a happy life with Emma.
Hey, it's you! It's been a long time. I turned around to see my friend from college. According to her, she had moved nearby last month. I was so excited to see her again. We had a casual conversation and I introduced her to my husband, who was shopping with me. Then my friend said happily, "What a surprise! Our kids go to the same school!" What? Kids? It's great that your husband helps out with parenting. I'm so jealous. We actually don't have any kids. What? There was an awkward silence. I had no idea what she was talking about. But other day, my friend told me something so unexpected, and this caused a big rift in our relationship. My name is Mary Miller. I am 33 years old. I have loved drawing since I was a child, and after graduating from college, I went to a design school. Though I got a job at a production company, I was unable to do the work I wanted to do. So I started receiving paid commissions for illustrations online. Then, one of my illustrations got a good response and the requests started pouring in. I began to receive requests for stickers for a messaging app, so I decided to quit the company and began working freelance. At the time, my family fiercely opposed my decision to quit the company, but I was able to follow through with my decision thanks to Shane. Shane was my boyfriend then and my husband now. I met him at work when I was an office worker, and we started dating. He knew that I wanted to become an illustrator, and he gave me some advice when I didn't know what to do. If you miss this chance now, it may never come again. And you're just going to give up like that? But my parents are against it. I mean, if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to force you to. But there are people out there who want to do something, but never get the chance, you know? People who don't get a chance? Yeah, but in your case, opportunities came to you by itself. I think it would be a waste to let it go. Shane's words woke me up. He is right when he says opportunities rarely come by itself. I would be a fool to miss it. Thus, over the objection of my parents, I quit my job and became a freelance illustrator. Despite my anxiousness, my message app sticker won the top spot in weekly sales. My DMs were flooded with paid commissions, and I quickly surpassed my salary as a company employee. Around then, Shane proposed to me and we got married. I became a married couple with the man I love who supported me when I was struggling. We have been married for 4 years now. We don't have children yet, but we are living happily with each other. Many things have happened in the past 4 years. The characters that I drew have been made into merchandise and picture books. I even collaborated with a store to have the characters' design used on their product packaging. Each time, my husband's smile was even happier than mine. Mary, you're amazing! I went to the store today and saw your illustration on a package of chocolates. They launched today, so I have a bunch of samples here. Samples don't do it. You have to go to the store to buy these. Shane, you're so over the top. No, I'm not. My wife is a popular illustrator, you know. I have to make sure I get these things as your biggest fan. My husband carefully peeled off the package off the chocolates and stuck it on the wall. Tomorrow I'll go buy another kind, he says happily. When I see my husband happy like this, it makes me happy too. Of course, I started this job because I love to draw. Still, without Shane, I wouldn't have been able to do the work I love today. Because of his encouragement, because of his support, he's the reason why I can live my life happily now. I can't thank my husband enough. I want to repay him as much as I can. That's what I thought every day. I haven't had a whole day off recently due to my work, but I finally got everything settled that day. My husband also has the day off tomorrow, so I wanted to go somewhere together. So I immediately suggested that to my husband when he got home. Hey Shane, do you have any plans for tomorrow? Tomorrow? Why? I thought maybe we could go out together. I work from home, so you always go out for me on your days off, right? Well, I figured you wouldn't get as much done if I was home. Even on his days off, my husband is very considerate of me and leaves the house. I don't care who's there, and I'd be more than happy to see him at home. I can't deny his consideration because he seems to be caring for me in his own way. It's been a long time since we've had a day off at the same time like this. I was eager to go out for a change, so I thanked him. Thank you for always being considerate. I'll pay for everything tomorrow, so why don't we go splurge? Oh, well, tomorrow is a bit... What? You're off work, right? Actually, I have to work on my day off. I'm having a hard time with my current project, so... You never used to have to work on your days off. You must be really busy. Yeah, you know, you make a lot of money, right? So, I thought I'd better not let you down. Shane, we don't usually talk about it, but there is a big difference in our incomes. Shane works for a small company, so his salary is about average. I, on the other hand, earn quite a bit of money from collaborations with various companies and regular sales of app stickers. Perhaps my husband is self-conscious about that. However, if I told him that he didn't have to worry about it because I earn the money, it would destroy his pride. If he wants to quit his job and become a house husband, that's fine. However, he is still working as hard as he can to keep up. If that's the case, it would be unreasonable for me to refuse that. I felt sad, but I tried to smile so that he wouldn't be bothered. Oh well, if you're busy with work, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. Let's go on a date some other time. I'm sorry, Mary. It's your day off, so you should go out somewhere to get your mind off of work. Yeah, I'll do that. It's okay to relax at home, but it's more refreshing to be outside. Yeah, perhaps watching a movie or shopping. Oh, that reminds me.
Can you get me a new wallet that'll suit me? My wallet is starting to tear. I'll pay you later.
Okay, I'll get you a very stylish one. So the next day, I went shopping by myself. I'm always busy, so I save up a lot of money. Sometimes I get a little scared because my savings are so much bigger than when I was an office worker. I'm completely useless at housework, so I leave all the bank accounts to my husband, and he takes care of all the household expenses. I use credit cards for purchases, so I only have the statements of what I have spent. The money is deducted from my account, so of course I don't bother my husband. On this particular day, I was looking for a wallet for my husband and found a perfect one. It was a bit pricey, but I was going to give it to him as a gift to thank him for always supporting me. Can I have this one, please? Can I get it wrapped as a gift as well? I'm just giving it to my husband. I just bought the purse he asked me to buy. Some may think that. But for me, even these small surprises are part of our communication as a couple. I hope he'll be happy. With this thought in mind, I went home. However, my husband didn't seem to come home, and after 10 p.m., I received a message that he would be working overnight. In the past, he used to call me when he was about to head home and had dinner with me. But recently, I feel like this is happening less and less. Is it just he works overtime and comes home late? Or is he just concerned about me? I felt an indescribable feeling. After that, we continued to miss each other, and the time we spent together decreased drastically. I couldn't even give him the wallet I had purchased for him. Then one day, my husband asked me if I wanted to go shopping with him out of the blue. Although I still had some work to do, I was happy that he asked me out, and I readily agreed. We went to a shopping mall a few blocks away and looked around the various stores. Hey Shane, let's get a new matching mugs.
Oh, that's a good idea. We've been using our current one for quite a while.
There's a lot of cute tableware too.
I'm gonna go check out the glasses over there.
Okay. We've been using our current dishes since we got married, and they're nicked in some places. While I was looking at the pretty tableware, a voice called out to me from behind. It's you, Mary. It's been a long time. I turned around to see my friend from college, Emily. Emily! Wow, it's been so long! How have you been? I'm doing great. How long has it been? I haven't seen you since we graduated from college, so it's been more than 10 years. You haven't changed at all. And you look as cute as ever, Emily. Oh, please. I'm exhausted every day. Well, what brings you here today? I heard that you got married and moved to the East Coast with your husband. My husband gets transferred a lot with work, so we actually moved here last month. Oh, I see. I was so excited to see my old friend again, especially because I didn't have any friends nearby that I could meet so easily. What are you doing here today? Are you here alone? Emily asked me, just in time to see my husband coming this way. I called my husband and introduced him to her. Emily, this is my husband Shane. I've told you about marriage, but we haven't had a wedding, so this is the first time you've seen my husband, isn't it? My husband smiled at Emily and introduced himself. Emily has a husband too, so we may be able to be family friends in the future. While I was imagining such a thing, she said happily, What a surprise! Our kids are in the same school. What? Kids? The unexpected statement made me pause for a moment. We don't have a child, so we've never even been to a school. Without noticing my agitation, Emily continued with a smile. It's great that your husband helps out with parenting. I'm so jealous. Parenting? What do you mean by that?
It's not every day that a father comes to pick their child up from school. I'm the one who always picks up my kids from school. Your husband is so nice. Wait a minute. We actually don't have any kids. What? There was an awkward silence. I had no idea what she was talking about. I looked at my husband, who had turned pale and was slumped over. I asked Emily why she thought we had a child. She was slightly confused, but started talking. I saw your husband at my kid's school the other day. You mean Shane? Are you sure? He was tall and good-looking, so he was getting a lot of attention from the other moms. He came to pick up a girl and left holding hands, so I thought, we don't have kids yet. You sure you're not mistaken? I'm sure of it. I'm sure I'm not lying. Then, it appears to be true. My husband, who had been listening to our conversation, was shaking next to me, breaking out in cold sweat. I told Emily I'd be in touch and walked back to the car with Shane. Can you explain to me what's going on? I asked him, but he wouldn't open his mouth. So I took his phone and started checking. My husband was yelling at me to stop the whole time, but it didn't matter anymore. I got around and checked the phone and found videos of a girl and messages with a woman who was most likely the woman he was cheating on me with. Are you saying that this girl is the child between the woman and you? No, that's just her kid.
But the girl in the video on your phone calls you Daddy, right?
That's because I'm like a father to her.
So does that mean the affair is true? And it's also true that Emily saw you at the school? I questioned him, and Shane nodded silently. At that moment, I felt more anger than sadness. I can't believe it. I can't believe that while I was working so hard, he was deepening his relationship with his affair partner and her child. I can never forgive him. I'll make sure he pays for this. I drove the car to the state office where I picked up the divorce papers and demanded my husband sign them. Here you go. Fill this out right here, right now.
Wait a minute. I have no intention to divorce you.
What? Don't be silly. Do you think you can stay married to me after doing this? You betrayed me without a care in the world.
Forgive me, please. It was just a little bit of a whim. I've only got intimate with her a few times. Believe me.
It doesn't matter. You were with her child as a father, weren't you? At that point, it's impossible. That's disgusting. I trusted you. I even bought you a new wallet as a gift, and you trampled all over my heart.
Mary, please, don't throw me away. I don't want a divorce.
My husband was still half crying and would not sign the divorce papers. I got impatient and took him with me to my in-laws' house. When we arrived, I revealed everything in front of my in-laws. They were furious and ordered my husband to sign the divorce papers on the spot. I know he has a weakness for my father-in-law. My father-in-law is a strict man, and he would never tolerate anything unethical. After getting his signature, I stormed into the house of the unethical woman with my husband leading the way. Luckily, her child was at school, so the woman was home alone. When I asked her about the situation, I found it very hard to believe. Apparently, my husband lied about being divorced and contacted her. She was a single mother who was having trouble making ends meet, so he withdrew money from my account and gave her a large sum of money every month to support her. He lied to her that he worked for a major company and gave her money that he falsely claimed was his salary. When I told her that all of this was a lie, she glared at my husband with disdain and told him to never show his face again. She, too, was in a way a victim of my husband. Thus, my husband was easily dumped not only by me, but also by the woman with whom he was having an affair. We later filed for divorce and our marriage ended. I declared alimony for the affair, as well as a total of $20,000 that he withdrew from my account without my permission. As for the affair partner, she did not know my husband's true identity, so I did not claim any compensation. On the contrary, she contacted me right away and said she wanted to return the money. Apparently, she had been saving the money Shane had given her every month without spending it. I gratefully accepted the money. Shane, now alone, paid my alimony in one lump sum and was in debt. He had no support from his parents, and after moving to a studio apartment, he was living a much poorer life than before. He lied, cheated on his wife, and spent his wife's money without permission. He deserved it. I, on the other hand, bought a new apartment and a new room to work in. I see my friend Emily regularly, and we talk about many things. If I had not met Emily that day, I would still be cheated on. She felt sorry for me, but I can only thank her. I am going to enjoy my life from now on to make it even better.
My husband, who has been domineering and bossy, suddenly threw soup at me. I was stunned as the hot liquid splashed on me. Huh? What are you doing?
What's with the soup?
Huh? It's just like usual. The taste of the soup is certainly no different from usual. The ingredients are also prepared exactly as my husband specified, so it should not taste bad at all.
No, I can't eat this soup. I can't believe you're making bad food when I'm the one who's supporting us with my money.
It's clear that my husband just wants to find fault.
What's wrong with splashing bad soup? If you have a complaint, then leave. Well, with no job, you probably have nowhere to go anyway.
I had reached my limit. It's impossible to stay married to a man like this anymore. Wiping the soup off my face with my hand, I took a deep breath and said, "Fine, I understand. I'll leave." Afterwards, my husband left the house and resorted to relentlessly making harassing phone calls to me. My name is Avery. I'm a working wife in the 3rd year of our marriage. Before getting married, I used to work at a publishing company. I was in charge of editing mystery novels and worked hard every day as an editor. It was at that time that I met Daniel, who would later become my husband. I worked at a major printing company that was a business partner of ours, and we got to know each other through work. After receiving Daniel's persistent advances, we decided to get married in our 2nd year of dating. During his proposal, Daniel said,
Avery, if we get married, would you consider quitting your job?
Huh? Daniel, why?
I can support us with my income alone, and I want my wife to take care of the household.
But certainly at that time, I was completely exhausted from the demanding job at the publishing company. Still, quitting my job required courage. Seeing me hesitate, Daniel said,
Avery, didn't you say you wanted to try writing your own works? How about using this opportunity to do some writing while being a homemaker?
Is it okay? I'm happy that I can also pursue my dreams. Upon accepting Daniel's proposal, I decided to quit my job at the company, and after getting married, I became a full-time homemaker. While managing household tasks, I also dedicated myself to writing in front of my computer. Turning the mystery novels I had dealt with as an editor into actual written books turned out to be much more challenging than I had imagined. However, since it was something I had always wanted to challenge myself with, there was also a sense of enjoyment. I had to express my gratitude to Daniel for allowing me to pursue what I wanted to do. I made sure not to neglect my household duties while being thankful to my husband. But gradually I began to see some shadows in what had initially been an unhappy married life. Daniel began to constantly find fault with my household chores. One day, as usual, I was preparing dinner and waiting for his return when Daniel came home late. "Welcome back. You were late today." I greeted him with a smile, not showing any displeasure. However, Daniel frowned as he looked at the dishes arranged on the dining table.
Huh? Fish today?
Yes, fresh fish was on sale. Right after I answered, Daniel let out a deep sigh.
What's this? I wanted meat today. I don't want fish at all.
Huh? I was taken aback and Daniel pushed the plate towards me.
Leave this for you, Avery, and make me a meat dish.
Even if you say that.
Come on, isn't it a wife's duty to quickly prepare what her husband wants to eat?
With that said, I couldn't respond with anything. In the end, I had to make another dish using the frozen meat that day. Furthermore, Daniel didn't do any household chores. Even when he had a day off and was at home all day, he would play games on his phone, ignoring my busy work. I couldn't stand it any longer and decided to talk to him. Hey, Daniel, if you have some free time, could you help me hang the laundry?
Huh? Why me?
My husband looked at me with an incredulous expression. Well, today's your day off too, and it seems like you don't have any plans. When I responded like that, Daniel sighed and called me over.
Listen, I work outside every day, unlike you. Don't you think I deserve a break on my day off?
I do household chores every day, and I also write. Upon hearing this, Daniel chuckled dismissively.
That's not worth a cent, is it? I'm the one earning, and you're just living off my money, right?
Yes.
In that case, at least do the household chores perfectly. Don't ever think of making me do them again.
I understand. I was frustrated, but as Daniel said, I wasn't the one earning money. I felt a sense of obligation for being a homemaker, so I had no choice but to follow what Daniel said. Was it from around that time? He started saying that he was busy with work and the days he was away from home increased. On weekdays, he often worked overtime, and there were also many instances of him working on weekends. Every evening when he returned from work, without fail, he would nitpick and complain about things like,
the cleaning here isn't thorough, or you're not hanging the laundry properly.
Sometimes he even woke me up from sleep just to point out my mistakes. On this day too, I was woken up at 1 a.m.
Hey, Avery, wake up.
Huh? What? In my groggy state, I panicked, and Daniel spoke with an irritated tone.
The floor cleaning is inadequate. Redo it now.
Huh? Right now? I vacuumed the floor earlier this afternoon.
It's still dirty. Just get up and clean the floor.
This is... Daniel stood with his arms crossed, keeping an eye on me. I ended up cleaning the floor in the middle of the night, even though it wasn't dirty.
I'm going to take a bath and sleep. Don't sleep until you're done.
Saying this, Daniel passed by me. At that moment, I caught a scent of woman's perfume that I didn't recognize coming from him. I was briefly unsettled, but it didn't seem like the right atmosphere to confront him. It must have been transferred from someone at the office, right? Deciding to think that way, I continued with the late-night floor cleaning. During that time, I was rushing to finish household chores and then concentrating on writing in the little time I had. At first, I had thought about writing a full-length novel to submit to a publishing company or enter into a competition. However, given my current lifestyle, it seemed challenging to complete a full-length novel. Therefore, I decided to serialize it on a publishing website. Fortunately, the works I submitted began to gain readers little by little. Seeing the comments from readers was also an encouragement to me. In the midst of a day full of household chores and continuing to meet Daniel's high demands, writing and submitting novels was my only respite. During those days, winter arrived and I caught the flu. My fever was nearly 104 degrees Fahrenheit and I couldn't even move. On that day, I couldn't manage even the most basic household chores, and I had been lying down since morning. When Daniel returned home late at night and saw me in that condition, he raised his voice once again.
Hey, what are you thinking? You can't do any housework at all.
I'm sorry. I went to the hospital at noon and they said I have the flu. My fever was so high that I couldn't get up. Even with my feeble response, Daniel clicked his tongue.
You're a full-time housewife. You can't even do housework properly?
You really have a good life, huh?
Why are you making excuses? Get up and do the housework already.
Daniel pulls my arm and tries to force me to stand, but my body lacks the strength to get up. Please, Daniel, can you go easy on me today?
Fine, then sleep in the hallway. I don't want you to infect me if you're sick.
Huh? Daniel dragged me, defenseless, out of the bedroom and into the freezing hallway. I attempted to return to the bed, but right in front of me, he closed the bedroom door and even locked it. I could only slump down in the hallway feeling hazy. Why was Daniel doing such terrible things? There must be a reason. Even though I was feverish, I decided to investigate my husband. Later, after I had somewhat recovered, I began secretly researching Daniel. On the surface, I continued to do housework and cater to his demands so that he wouldn't suspect anything. And I spent my savings from when I was single to hire a private investigator. Remarkable facts came to light. I never would have expected that Daniel was doing such a thing. Knowing this, I decided to keep the truth to myself, as I was certain that if this fact came to light, it would shake up my life. While holding on to this secret, I continued to live my life as usual for a while. Meanwhile, Daniel's terrible behavior remained unchanged, and the stress of keeping this secret began to take a toll on me. I was losing weight rapidly, and I even started experiencing chronic stomach aches. At this rate, I would be in a bad state. I needed to do something. During that period of contemplation, I received an email in my inbox. A few days later, I was waiting for Daniel as usual, cooking dinner. I prepared dishes that were Daniel's favorites. I hope he won't complain today. I wished that as I arranged the meal to match Daniel's arrival time.
Hey, I'm back.
My husband returned home after 10 p.m. Welcome back. Dinner is ready.
Huh? Lamb steak tonight? That's great.
Daniel seemed strangely cheerful. Because I was forbidden from having dinner until he returned, I started eating as soon as Daniel sat at the table. But the next moment, Daniel suddenly threw soup at me. Showered with hot liquid, I was left dumbfounded. What? What are you doing?
What's wrong with this soup?
Huh? It's the same as usual. Indeed, the taste of the soup was no different from usual. The ingredients were also prepared exactly as Daniel had specified, and it certainly wasn't bad.
No, this soup is absolutely inedible. Despite the fact that I'm the one supporting you with my money, you go and make terrible food.
Are you serious? Daniel was grinning as he looked at me, and it was evident that he just wanted to find fault.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. What's wrong with throwing this awful soup at you? If you've got a problem, then get out. Oh, and with no job, you've got nowhere to go, do you?
I had reached my limit. I couldn't bear to be with a man like this any longer. Wiping the soup off my face, I took a deep breath and said, "All right, I'll leave." At that moment, Daniel was briefly taken aback, but quickly returned to grinning.
Huh, you're just pretending to be strong. Well, if you can't leave, then go ahead. I know you'll come crawling back soon enough.
I left the table in silence, took a shower, and packed my things. Daniel was already snoring in the bedroom, so I left without saying a word. The next day, while relaxing at my parents' house, I received a call from Daniel. When I ignore it, it persistently calls every few minutes. It's what you'd call harassment calls, you know. But I continued to ignore them. Then 3 days later, I had had enough of the incessant calls, so I reluctantly decided to answer. Hello?
Hey, you! Where the hell are you? You just silently disappeared.
He yelled loudly, and I responded calmly. I'm at my parents' house, you know.
Huh? Are you serious about leaving like that? Cut it out already.
You were the one who told me to leave, weren't you?
You're taking it seriously. Get back home now and do the housework.
Daniel shouted angrily. In response, I sighed and replied, I won't be returning to that house.
Huh?
After work, I'll be waiting for you at the cafe near your office. Let's talk there. Goodbye. With that, I hung up. If he could at least apologize, that last hope was easily dashed. I won't show him any mercy anymore. Now, shall I proceed? I muttered to myself and sent an email to a certain place. Several hours later, as promised, I waited at the cafe, and an infuriated Daniel appeared.
Hey, what do you mean you won't go back?
As soon as he sat down, Daniel roughly said such words. I can't be your wife anymore. I answered quietly, and Daniel turned red and was about to speak. Just then, Daniel's phone rang. Are you going to answer it? It might be something urgent. I told him that, and he reluctantly answered the phone with an annoyed expression. Eventually, his face turned paler and paler as the call went on. When the call ended, he opened his eyes wide, turned pale, and covered his mouth. What's wrong? Did you get fired after all?
Huh?
Daniel suddenly turned to look at me, and I gazed at him directly. You got caught cheating with the president's daughter from one of your business partners, didn't you? That's why you got fired, right? Yes, the fact I had uncovered through a private investigator was indeed this. Daniel was having an affair with the daughter of a business partner's CEO, hiding his marriage. I had obtained photographic evidence of this through a detective.
What? How do you know about that?
Well, I'm the one who reported that fact to your company, you know.
What?
I smiled at the shocked Daniel. Meanwhile, he was at a loss for words.
Do you even know what you've done?
Yes, I'm well aware. By the way, I also reported the details to the president of your business partner. He was quite angry and wanted to hear all the details, so I also gave him the evidence of your affair.
What?
At that moment, Daniel's phone rang again. When I encouraged him to answer it, he trembled and picked up the phone. From the call, the voice of a young woman could be heard, shouting while crying. It seems that Daniel's affair partner is in a state of panic. Daniel almost couldn't say anything and hung up the phone with a pale face. Poor thing, even the woman who was your affair partner. She was just deceived, after all. You lied to her, saying you were single.
You? When did you find out?
Daniel asked in a fluster, and I answered calmly. It was just about a month ago. At first I thought I'd keep it to myself, because you see, if this were to become evident and you were to lose your job, it would mean I couldn't support myself either.
That's right, you're living on my money. What do you think you're accomplishing by doing this? You'll end up in a dire situation too.
With a bright face, Daniel lashed out at me. To him, I calmly responded, Well, if that's the case, don't worry. I have my own income.
Huh?
I explained to a stunned Daniel. I had been posting mystery novels in between household chores. Moreover, it gained a large number of fans, and as a result, it's being turned into a book. The email that arrived while I was troubled by my husband's affair was the news of its adaptation into a book. Additionally, this was one of the reasons why I chose to get a divorce this time, believing that I could become independent.
What? What's that? Then you better support me next time. Because of what you did, I might lose my job, you know?
At that moment, I splashed the water from the glass onto Daniel.
What are you doing? It's cold, isn't it?
Be glad it wasn't hot soup. We're getting a divorce. I'll charge you $20,000 for the affair, so pay up, you scumbag. Daniel, while in a panic, pleaded not to get divorced. I shrugged it off and left the cafe without further ado. Later, Daniel and I got divorced. Thanks to the lawyer, the cheating fee was paid immediately and I received my share of the property. Afterward, Daniel got fired from his job. He's also facing a lawsuit from his affair partner and has to pay alimony. Because of that, he's burdened with an enormous debt, and now he lives in a rundown apartment. He works like a workhorse day and night. It's all his own doing, so I don't sympathize with him at all. As for me, I moved to a new apartment with the alimony and live comfortably. My novel, which was turned into a book, is doing well, and I'm currently working on the next one. From now on, I want to make an effort every day to fulfill my dreams while taking care of myself.